Hello again, everyone. We got another resin model kit by DMH. Not sure how this brand stays around because I don't think these are licensed. DMH by Racing Wheel? Is that what it says? Rotating wheel. Alright. I don't know what that means. Who made it? I don't know. But in discoloration gray, there's around 300 pieces. And this is the 2013 version of this car, I guess. So you got a sturdy box, so if you want to give it away as a nice gift, you can. For me, I just wish I didn't have to buy this box, because this is fine for me. Other brands just have, a sleeve, and it seems to be fine. Anyhow, now you have some more plastic protecting this. So it's just layers and layers of packaging I'm not a fan of. Okay, maybe some... Oh, they're tape dots. Interesting. I've never actually seen a brand provide these because they're usually just on the box because you're really not supposed to be opening these in most cases because they're gonna get dusty. But if you touch these things, they have really delicate parts. But anyways, this saves me some effort because what I use is those like shoe elastics. Hold on a sec, I'll get one. Yeah, so you can buy these elastics that people put around their high heels, I guess, to keep their high heels from falling off. So they're clear and they're wide, but you have to use them lengthwise. And if you have a very sharp edge, which these acrylic ones do, they will cut the rubber band. So you might have to actually sand that edge down a little bit if you want to use this sort of thing. Or you get some smaller elastics and go this way, but the smaller ones tend to break easier. So this thicker one, they seem to be a little more durable. Sorry for that tangent, but it's useful if you want to, for some reason take photographs of your stuff and just have easy access to removing the cover. So even though this is called discoloration gray, it looks very silver to me. Here's some images. I'm not going to talk about this car because when I reviewed the Kyoshos, I'm pretty sure I spoke about this vehicle. Suffice to say, it's probably quite expensive and it's probably quite fast. The lighting in here, maybe this isn't the same gray color. Let's see. So we do have the acrylic base there. I see no indication of glue bubbles, so they did a good job getting the acrylic glue in there. And then you have two Phillips screws if you want to take it off the base. Boy, this is really elaborate. So besides the fact that this is all acrylic, 2 layers of acrylic, now you have something covered in this felt and it's stitched on with this funky blue. I mean, it is nicely done, is the termination point. That's the only ugliness there. And then you have a carbon fiber nameplate. So, and this has got some white tampo print on it and then the run of it. So it's very nice, but I wish these brands would have like an alternate version, which is a regular box, a regular sleeve, and it would cost $10 to $50 less. If you look up the prices of resins, you can see a vast difference in the pricing just due to the packaging itself. I did some other Lamborghini resin review and pulled up some AliExpress listings. Some of them were like $40 more expensive, I think, because of the packaging. So that's a reason why I complain about it. Okay, well, going in here, we're starting at the front wheel. Black wheel is kind of hard to see stuff, but at least the center is red and there's some sort of Lamborghini badge attempt in the middle of it. It is centered, so that's good. Looking really close at this wheel, I do think it's got a carbon fiber texture. I am now magnified 4 times. That's as good as I can go. And look, it looks like a carbon fiber wheel. That is really cool. I don't know if I've ever seen that in this hobby before. Like an actual graphic of the wheel itself looking like it's carbon fiber. It's just the rim itself though. The spokes are just black. I don't know if that's the way the real car is. It's hard to tell in those photographs. That's why I don't like black wheels. It's really hard to see the details. But look at the brake rotor back there. It looks like a carbon ceramic brake. It's got like some speckling in it for the metal elements in that carbon. And then the cross drilling recesses is nice. And then you can see the silver washers holding the thing to the hat with the black dots for the bolt heads. So that's a very, very, very detailed brake system. at least the rotor. The caliper itself is actually quite dull. It's red and it has Lamborghini on it, but for some reason it's not sharply molded like a racing caliper would have. It looks kind of smoothed out. Maybe we'll see more of it on a different wheel. That'll make it look nicer. And then if you look at the sidewall of this tire, there's some red Pirelli P0 printing on there, so that's very cool. The tread blocks, they don't look obnoxious like a truck tire. You can still see a little bit of them, but it seems acceptable. Then you can see there's this marker here in front of the wheel well. I don't know if it's a running light or a reflector or what, but there's actually photo etched. There's a recess of a different color in this shiny surface. So you can now see the tricolore flag there. That's probably a decal. I'm not going to touch it. Look how nice the carbon graphic is here. And I do feel like this is under a clear coat because it's perfectly smooth. Just looking at the reflection, there's no waviness like a decal. So I'm not sure how they do this. I don't know if this is printed and clear coated or if this is decaled and clear coated, but it looks great. This metallic is actually kind of cool. It's very pearlescent, especially at the door. Here in the door, you see how it's catching the light? That's very, it's not as good as the white pearlescence I've seen in resin models, but it's pretty darn cool. It's much better than a standard silver. So maybe it's sprayed with silver and then maybe it's sprayed with a pearlescent clear coat or something. Anyhow, it is nice. The flag motif is carrying across. You'll notice across different surfaces here there's a break, and then there's going back, actually back behind it on that surface in there. And then it's coming up here. They actually cut the decal so you don't have air pockets where the door seams are. That's a lot of effort. That's very impressive. I'm not sure if I've ever seen that in this hobby before either, where they literally cut the decal. We'll have to see what the other side looks like. This is very well laid on. So this is all easy to do. I could even do this. But look at this. Look how thin that thing tapers off, and it's going all the way up to here. And then again, they cut the decal to go into the recess. Laying this down, this whole thing, this is all probably one decal at one point. Well, maybe not this, but the decal here was all one piece. And getting something that thin all the way up there, that takes a lot of time. If you watch some of my actual model kit builds, I fast forward them maybe between 4 to 8 times. So making model kits takes 10 to 50 hours. Someone spent at least 20 minutes probably putting these decals on this model. Or at least that's what it would take me at least. That's just crazy. Alright, so very, very impressive. It's a lot of work. Unless you make models, you have no idea how difficult it is, or time consuming. Maybe it's not difficult, but it's time consuming. Alright, nice recess for your fingers. I'm not sure then what this would be for. Maybe it's a button to unlock the door. Leave in a comment if you know. But it's nice, you don't see it from most human height views. What's going on back there? We gotta get the flashlight. Seems to be a grill of sorts, but the question is it a photo etch piece? Most likely. I don't know if it's just molded plastic, but there's clearly like a hexagonal grill back there. And what's going on here? Let me go to 15 movements. I don't know what that is. Oh, that's just a reflection. That's that surface reflecting that grill. That's interesting. Anyhow, I would assume that's probably a photo etch piece because it looks like, you know, the holes have white or something, or maybe the silver of the body behind it. So that's a detail. It's there, but I mean, unless you go looking for it, you probably have a hard time even noticing it, right? Because it's all black in there. Well, actually, the light does get in there. So what about the front, though? What's going on in this tiny little crevice? It's just black. Wow, is there... I think there's a texture right here. Maybe that's an inserted piece as well. I mean, it looks like a texture, right? I'm looking at this thing through a mobile phone, so you guys probably see a lot more than I do if you're watching this on a TV or something. Anyhow, very, very nice detail so far, as a resin should be. And then obviously you're going to have a separate mirror with a reflective sticker, so that's literally a mirror. And then you have this super thin like packaging kind of plastic, and so you can see right through to my fingerprints, and you can watch television through these windows. A molded window would never give you that, but I've actually grown to like molded windows because they never pop loose. I've had some issues where the tension of a very curved thin plastic like this will pop the glue off. Let's hope that this photo etched piece of metal window molding is helping to keep its shape and will not pop off. This painted black thing is nice. And because this is such a shallow bend on the windscreen, hopefully that will never pop off either. Okay, one would assume this is the fuel filler, and look, it's not just like a round thing, it's actually textured. So I have a suspicion this is photo etched, right? It looks like 3 louvers. I don't know if, I can't recall if this is a hybrid or not. Anyways, there's a little inserted grill up on the top part behind the window as well, so that's very cool. Going back here, there's a grill in the top part there, right? An inserted piece. Going to the rear wheel and the rear caliper. Sorry. That's much better. This caliper has more definition to it. Maybe it's just something about the front one. Maybe it's just the location and how the spokes are. It just, for some reason, it just doesn't look very sharp-edged, that caliper. You'll notice that I think the brake rotor size is different. Let me shut this off. Let's just... Yeah, I think like the front rotor, you can't really see the edge so much unless it's at an angle, but looking at straight on, you can't see any blackness around the brake rotor. But here in the rear, you can see blackness around the brake rotor because it's a smaller diameter rotor, which makes sense, being a rear brake. So that's an attention to detail that maybe some other brands would skip. They probably just mold the same part and just put it in all 4 wheels. That's what I do in my 3D printed projects mostly. I'm just lazy. Alright, so some sort of inserted piece or text maybe? I'm looking at the real photos. I almost feel like this is just supposed to be a text box, but what is there? Some red? Some black? I don't know. I don't know what that is supposed to be. I can't even tell on the real car, but it looks like, you know, this panel grooves around it. Alright, this lower sill, you can see the carbon texture is very nice. There's some sculpting going on, some sort of, you know, horizontal planes coming into this inserted grill. I wonder if there's anything behind that. Wow, yeah, there's air behind this grill on the side, so very neat. Alright, the rear tire has that P0 striping, that gold in the middle, and actually the red ring, if you look close, sorry, this camera's on the suspension mount, so it makes it easier to move around, but if I touch it, it wobbles. But I have to touch it to make it focus. Anyhow, the center knockoff, you can see the ribs that the driver would engage to remove that red nut from the axle. So that's another detail that's quite unexpected. Boy, DMH, you're raising the bar. Very impressive. The tire treads here from a more... Yeah, they look like modern tire treads. I'm not even sure if they're symmetric. They're not, right? So those are asymmetric treads like a real car would have. The front, though, is symmetric. Maybe that is what the real ones look like. I'm not sure, but... Okay, now we do have an inserted photo etch piece again for this rear light or reflector. I guess we'll just go around to the back since we're already headed that way. And I apologize, the camera is having a hard time focusing between the black and the silver. But this wing end plate in this, all the carbon texture, it's under a clear coat, it's very smooth. I can't really feel that red, so I have a suspicion, or at least pray, that this red is under the clear coat as well. And then what's going on there? I don't know. Some sort of red graphics there. And they're probably under the clear coat. These real recesses. I think this is like a wing angle adjuster. I could be wrong. Leave a comment if you know. You'll notice here there's a little Veneno printed there. Very legible. And then we have all the red striping on these veins and the perimeter of the diffuser. I mean, look how well done it is. Like the consistent thickness of this red. I don't know how they did it. I don't. It would be crazy to try to put a decal on like that. That's just insanity. But how do you paint something so consistent? There must be a tampo machine specifically for this particular red line. It's very, very impressive. This, I suppose, you could paint with a marker easily enough to be consistent. But yeah, it's the lines all look generally the same size. Okay, I'm gonna assume these are the exhausts, but they actually have tiny recesses. So that's a really impressive detail. This is a toothpick I'm holding, right? Look at my finger come into play here, right? Look how small these exhausts are, and they're actually hollow. That's really crazy. Look at the carbon here and the skeleton frame. This model is amazing. Oh boy, let's just hope there's no defects. Yeah, it's all hollow back there. That makes sense. Some sort of... Oh, you know what? Maybe this is 3D printed, whatever's behind this opening. Because those could be support studs from a resin 3D printer, a liquid printer. So now you have inserted grills back here. All these grills have metal etched pieces with some air behind them, it looks like. And then this, you have a little bit of a photo etch reflector. It looks like it's etched and then it's got red resin on it. Yeah, so it's glossy, but it looks like there's literally a rectangular recess because that was etched away. It would have been cool if there was something back behind these openings, but maybe there isn't anything on the real car. But one would assume there'd be a muffler or something. I mean, why else would you have giant vents there? And then look at these taillights, the little arrow taillights here that Lambo has. These are photo etched pieces, and they've etched away all these little rectangles for the LED recesses. So very impressive. Again, if this is a toothpick, you could floss your teeth with this photo etched piece. And then there's even a tiny, tiny Lamborghini script there. Or Veneno. I can't tell. It is so small I can't read it through my 4 times magnified camera screen, my phone here. And then there's some sort of thing here. No idea. Leave a comment. Maybe it's to open up the rear hood or something. And then there's a photo etch piece here. That's probably maybe a third brake light. And then again, this consistently thick, evenly thick red line. Very impressive. Maybe this is a decal because it is like on the top surface, not the edge. But yeah, the carbon up here is very nice as well. All under a clear coat. I'm trying to focus on it. There we go. Very cool. Look at how thin this wing is. So this entire wing is, minus the center strut, this is all photo etched metal, right? It's bent. It's bent sheet metal to represent this carbon fiber wing. That's a lot of work, right? Someone had to create some sort of tooling to stamp these pieces and then cut them out into this shape. So it's probably like a stamp cut process in one, but then 2 end plates, so 4 pieces to make this wing. Very cool. Very cool. Look at this, unexpected. There's carbon fiber even on the inside surface of this thing. Obviously it's going to be on the outside, but they went to the effort of putting on both sides. I wonder if they maybe put the graphic on before they stamped them. That would make sense because it would scratch the graphic, but I'm not sure how they get this carbon graphic onto the things. And then we have some vents. I would assume there's grills in them. Yep, that one there has some grills. There's some carbon detail here as well. Okay, what's some smaller vents there, and I can't get the angle. I don't know if there's grills in these 2 smaller ones, but it's like a different black. It's like maybe painted. I'm not going to. Well, all right, we're gonna go all out of order today. There's no real rear window on this thing. It's just these 6 slits, and it looks like there's some detail back behind them. So some silver is peeking through. Well, I'm not really expecting an engine. There probably, I wouldn't doubt that there is an engine behind this thing, but if you can't see it, you can't see it. Again, look at the paint, how it's kind of changing. It's a color shift. See, it looks a little bit purple up here, and then silver here. But right, very interesting. I didn't even notice before. There's a little red reflector or something here. Maybe it's a separate piece, because there's like a recess. So I think it's a separate piece. Okay, that all looks great again. That very detailed rotor. This decal, the insanity of this decal going that far up. Very, very cool. What is this? It's like a little bulge here. Oh, I see. That's to help grab some air. Okay. That window surround looks good. This area looks good. This all looks good. It looks fantastic. Very nice, very nice. Alright, so going around to the front, we have this barge board with the carbon stuff. What is this? Oh, I see. It's a horizontal wing. And I assume this, yep, there is a carbon graphic on this tiny wing. Very impressive. Yep, on the top surface of the splitter. And then you have a recess, and that thing is probably got an inserted grill. It looks like there's a honeycomb grill in this little brake duct, or I honestly don't know what this is, but I would have to assume this little thing here is a brake duct. And then this is the radiator area, right? So that's crazy. That somehow they're putting in a grill that's probably only 2 millimeters high. So the clear lens cover molded well enough, and then you have little indications of those LEDs there, and also here. So these are probably, this one looks, well, I don't know. Never mind. I don't know if it's just molded plastic or if there's photo etch pieces, but there's something shiny right here. That's a stainless steel part, right? This Y shape. So that's got to be a photo etch piece bent to fit inside that thing. And then there's a round little projector headlight there. Yeah, then we got the other side. It's really hard for the camera to switch between black and reflections, but yeah, that's a crazy light assembly right there. Now you can really see the stainless steel or chrome looking like Y shape bent in there. So that's a very, very detailed light bucket. One of the best I've ever seen, to be honest with you. I've seen photo etched round light bulbs, but I've never seen a bent piece of metal inside underneath the clear plastic cover. So that's a new one to me. The Lambo badge, yeah, that's interesting. How much proportionally? I don't know if it makes sense. It doesn't actually look like the proportions of a Lamborghini crest. It looks more pointy. But it is a separate piece. It's actually raised a little bit. So I'm guessing maybe it's a photo etch piece. They stamped on the black and gold, and then they put a drop of clear resin on it. So now looking here, even the verticals of this front end have carbon. So the carbon is just going everywhere here. Every surface of this thing is covered in a carbon fiber. The little horse. Boy, this camera's going crazy. Alright, so yeah, the horizontals here, the slanted parts, this craziness. Let's get the flashlight back. Oh, there's like bulges in here. I'm not sure what those bulges are in these two flanking recesses. I thought this was a radiator, but it's just like a carbon fiber thing. So I'm not sure what's going on, or why would that be the way it is. Leave a comment. I would assume the real car is like this, but to me it makes no sense. I would have guessed this would be totally open and there'd be some silver radiators behind there. So that way the air flows in here, cools off the radiator, and vents out there. But I don't know. I can't see in the front photograph. It's just all darkness in there. Oh boy. Yeah, getting the focus to work is really hard. Let's look in the back side of these front vents. Well, looks like inserted grills again. Yep, we got some metal grills in there. That's crazy. There's so many parts on this thing. You know, they could have just left those grills out and it still would have been dark in there. So whoever manages the factory making these models, in this particular case, or designing this, really cared about the details. It wasn't a half-assed job. You know, they really looked at every detail possible and tried to jam it into this thing 64 times smaller than reality. Okay. So now this is not carbon fiber, but one would assume it's just plastic on the real car. I don't know. But obviously if it was carbon fiber, they could have done it, right? If they can do it here. So it's probably by choice that's just a matte black finish. Looking at the wiper blades, they are definitely photo etched. You can see the little lightning hole recesses and the thinness of the blade, and it literally is bent perpendicular to the windscreen, so very realistic. The blackout printing is on the back side of this plastic, and yeah, hopefully, you know, this won't pop loose because it's generally flat. The silver or gray, as the box said up here, looks okay. What's going on here? There's some black, but knowing these guys, there could be metal pieces in these tiny vents, so I'm a little curious. No, in this case, yeah, it's just black paint, I assume. Well, that's perfectly fine. It's just crazy they would even have them in these front brake ducts. Okay, pearlescent looks really good. The panel gaps, yeah, they're okay. I may have seen thinner ones, but these are okay for me. Definitely thinner than a die cast. Alright, so, yeah. Just getting some different views here. Oh, and there I go, hitting the camera again, but I gotta focus. Really amazing. Amazing. Okay, so the top of the dashboard is a matte finish, and then we have some red pinstriping going on there, and even red stitching, because this dashboard is probably covered in leather on the real car, but this binnacle is probably carbon fiber, which makes reasons why it has these diagonal lines. And then you have 3 inserted pieces for the vents, these little photo etched vent details. And it's so shallow. Oh, it's going to be hard to see what's going on inside of this thing. But you can see more red pinstriping all across the dashboard. The steering wheel has the stalks for the controls, and it looks like paddle shifters behind the steering wheel as well. Maybe that's a photo etch piece. The center console has a decal of sorts with all the switches in different colors. Very neat. This red trim is coming on the seat, the stitching and the red piping, I guess. I'm not sure what that big red block is here in the middle, though. Why would that... Maybe there's like a cushion for the passenger's legs. The far door panel, it looks like there's somewhat of an armrest there. And it's actually painted the same color as the exterior. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be the way it is, but that's the way this model is. And then, yes, separate seat belts. They're literally some sort of material, and they're cut and weaved through those photo etch seat belt slide locks. And this, yeah, that's crazy. There's some Italian flag decals on the seat belts. The headrest has openings and the Lambo badge there. The seat cushion. Yeah, a lot of piping and stitching details. Look at that. That's crazy. I've lost focus again. Alright, so I'm just trying to overpower the LED above us. So you have that quick release mechanism there in that seat where the 5 belts would lock in. Maybe it's 6 belts. I don't know, but interesting. Oh, I see. Yeah, now that door panel, it actually doesn't look, you know what, that maybe in a reflection I was looking at before. So that door panel clearly looks like it's carbon fiber and not the silver of the exterior. Yeah, so that's interesting. What I was looking at before, it made it look like it was, see, it looks like it's the same silver as the outside of the door. But clearly from this angle, it looks like it's carbon fiber. So there's weird illusions going on. There's also red on the door itself. I don't know what that is. Maybe that's the finger pull or something. Rear view mirror, one would assume. Yeah, hold on. Boy, I can't get my light in there. So the window's just so shallow. Now, the camera's going haywire again. Yeah, it's got a reflective sticker, and there's some sun visor details on the bottom of the roof. Does this even have a rear window? There's some sort of window going into the engine. This is the only chance to see the engine. It looks like there actually is an engine back there. There's a pipe maybe going to an air filter. That's just the raw inside of the resin body. But yeah, I wouldn't doubt there's an engine in there, but I'm not going to take this off the stand. It's just not important to me. The paint's really nice. Even though the camera went out a little crazy earlier, you really saw the flakes inside of this clear coat. Very cool. So the two Kyoshos I think are still fantastic for die casts. They don't have brake systems, but they do have the printing on the tires, and all the red here is tampo printed. So this is just blanked off surfaces as well. Maybe that's the way the real car is, but I don't know. Maybe I just assume that's because Kyosho, this is a cheaper model. This is obviously the Roadster version, and one would assume at some point there'll be a Roadster version of this car in resin, which I would actually probably buy, even though this is actually a very nice model. It's clearly inferior to a resin model. It's very nice, but this has so many parts, all those little grills that are totally unexpected. So here we go, another Kyosho, this time of the coupe version. And it's a metallic, white. It's just, there's something about that metallic that's just leagues beyond this. And this does have a bit of a cartoonishly large badge on it. But again, still, it's all about price. This thing's probably 10 times the cost of that thing when it was new. So, another Kyosho. I think this is kind of around the same time frame, this Centenario. I would assume at some point there'll be a resin version of this. Again, this is done by Kyosho. Very cool. And then here's a green car by Mini GT. Mini GT doesn't think it's important to tell people what you have, although that's a giveaway. I think I repainted the interior of that. Alright, some similar styled Lambos. I can't really say this is actually the most pretty vehicle I've ever seen. In fact, I would probably steer towards uglier. I think this is attractive because it looks like a Countach. But this thing is kind of like, it looks very like spaceship / insect like. A space insect designed by Lambo. Don't get me wrong, I would love to have one of these in real life. If someone wants to give me one, I'm willing to accept your gift. But for now, this will do for today. I gifted myself something really nice, really special. If you go and watch my resin reviews, very often there's complaints because there's so many parts. Every time you add a part, so many chances for something to go wrong. But whoever built this model did a fantastic job. I mean, those decals, how they're cut to go into the panel gaps, the clear coat over all this carbon fiber, it's amazing. It really is. So it's expensive, but in this case, it's definitely worth it. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. I'm looking forward to getting another DMH. Hopefully DMH, put out a cheaper version with a basic stand. You can sell more models that way. You can sell the same model, just a little bit cheaper with cheaper packaging. Thanks for watching. We'll see you. Bye.